The global energy chessboard is shuffling again, and this time Washington is swinging a hammer hard enough to shake BRICS, Russia, China, India and the entire oil market. President Donald Trump has now signaled full support for Senate bill that could impose tariffs as high as 500% on any nation still buying Russian oil and gas. Publicly, it's being sold as a final blow to Russia's war machine in Ukraine. But the deeper story? A much bigger geopolitical game. Blackmail, market capture and a direct strike at BRICS' growing power. Let's break it down. Hello and welcome back to TFI Global. On Sunday, Trump told reporters he backs the Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025, a bipartisan bill with over 85 co-sponsors. It gives the US president sweeping authority to slap up to 500% tariffs on imports from countries that continue doing energy business with Russia. Translation: if India, China and Brazil or any other country buys Russian crude, natural gas or even uranium, the US can turn their exports into a financial nightmare. A $100 Chinese component could suddenly cost $600 if it enters the US. A $200 Indian chemical shipment, it becomes $1,200 overnight. This is not a sanction on Russia but a punishment for Russia's customers, and it's unprecedented. Washington's frustration has reached a boiling point. 3 years of sanctions haven't stopped Russia. Moscow simply rerouted its oil to Asia, especially China, which now takes 50% of Russia's crude, and India, which buys 30 to 35%. These energy sales fund around 40% of Russia's federal budget, enough to keep its war machine running despite European boycotts. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Russia has intensified its operations around Pokrovsk, while continuing strikes deep into the Ukrainian territory. For many in Washington, this bill is the nuclear option of economic warfare. But others, including many across the global south, say it's not about Russia, it's about America first oil supremacy. Trump's real reason. Let's peel back the layers. First, US wants to sell more oil. America is producing record high crude in 2025, around 13.5 million barrels per day. It's exporting more than ever done, but there's a problem. Russia's cheap oil is undercutting US producers in Asia. India imported 11.2 million barrels of US crude last May, but it still buys much more from Russia. If Washington can force tariffs on Russian buyers, America can steal back the market. This is not just sanctions, this is economic engineering. Second, the Gulf allies want relief. Saudi Arabia, the UAE and other Gulf states have lost 5 to 7% market share in Asia because Russia sells at a $10 to $15 discount. Riyadh is quietly cheering higher tariffs on Russian oil is equal to more buyers for Arab Light. Third, US wants to weaken the BRICS. Trump has been openly hostile to the BRICS expansion, especially after Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia and the UAE joined. BRICS has pushed the non-dollar oil trade, local currency settlements, joint LNG and refinery projects and a long-term vision of a multipolar world. To Washington, this is a direct threat to an American dominance. This tariff bill is one thing above all, a strike at BRICS' economic backbone and energy. India is caught in the crossfire. In August 2025, Trump doubled the tariffs on Indian exports to 50%, citing India's Russian oil purchases. And now Trump has hinted at reversing tariffs if India moves away from Moscow. Washington wants India to buy more US oil, more US LNG, more US agriculture, and to buy fewer Russian barrels. This is less about geopolitics, more about economic leverage. China, the world's largest buyer of Russian oil, is the bill's main target. A 500% tariff means Chinese electronics, Chinese EV components, batteries, solar panels could be effectively blocked from the US market if Beijing keeps buying Russian crude, which it will. China could retaliate by cutting exports of rare earth minerals, graphite, solar-grade polysilicon, battery components. That would hammer the American industries. We could see a new supercharged US-China trade war. BRICS leaders have already condemned the weaponized sanctions. At the Rio summit, they called the US tariffs a threat to global energy security. In October, BRICS held an emergency meetings on the emerging multipolar order. This bill could accelerate BRICS energy cooperation, non-dollar oil trade, ruble yuan settlement systems, alternative payment networks. Instead of weakening BRICS, Washington might unite them further. Short term, yes. If India and China reduce imports by even 20%, Russia could lose 30 to 50% of its energy revenue. But long term, Russia is already adapting massive pipelines to China, Arctic LNG routes, expanded shadow fleets, yuan, rupee-based oil trading. Russia has survived the worst. This bill could spark global trade wars, oil price spikes, new currency battles, pressure on OPEC and fractured alliances. Ukraine might benefit temporarily, but it could lose long-term support from the global south. Europe could face higher energy prices. Asia could split into rival trade blocs and BRICS could grow stronger, not weaker. So what is Trump's 500% tariff plan? A moral stand for Ukraine, a strike on Russia, message to China, a warning to India, or a shot at BRICS? Or just simply a push to flood global markets with US oil? The truth is, it's all of the above. This is economic warfare wrapped in diplomacy, delivered under the banner of sanctions but driven by the oldest motive in geopolitics: power. And now, the world waits. Beyond once these tariffs hit, nothing in global energy or global politics will ever be the same again. Thanks for watching.